Welcome into the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's a happy Jets fan over there, Wade Neely. We'll be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports content, including not one, but two football teams in the greater New York City area. So be sure and stick around for our NFL section here later in the show. But got a lot to get into today. Some fairly entertaining and some kind of sobering. But Wade, happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Mo. Good to be with you. Good to see everybody. We got a big show lined up. We got snow coming down here in downtown Nashville, just like we thought we would here on November 10th. But luckily for everybody, nothing's sticking, and so we're in good spirits here on this Monday.
Snow coming down on Monday. Highs in the low to mid 70s on Friday. If you don't like the weather in Middle Tennessee, just stick around about 10 minutes and it'll change for you. So
absolutely. Had the Metro Nashville Public Schools had their parade of schools at Nissan Stadium Saturday, and I wore a long sleeve shirt and was roasting. I mean, roasting Saturday. And then, 2 days later, I'm sitting here and snow is coming down. So, welcome to
Tennessee. And 2 days before that, it got a little nippy on Thursday night for high school football as well. So we've experienced everything, and then that rain that so many folks expected on Friday did in fact come. So, it's been a wild weather stretch here in Middle Tennessee, as per usual. So stick around. Again, big show, second hour.
Hey, real quick, that made me to look up, Mo. There were some weaklings out there, and so want everybody to be safe. But we see you, Clay County, we see you, Trousdale County, we see you, Van Buren County. All them closed today. So the weaklings out there of the world. Although it does get a little snowier up in that stretch of the state, I suppose.
It gets a little snowier, it gets a little colder, and we're talking about, it's all about the kids, Wade.
All about the kids, but the teachers want to stockpile them days, baby. We're going to be letting out in December and January, and you don't want to be burning your days and eating into that precious summer break. So for a few little, I'm looking out the window, a few little flurries. You don't want to waste one of those days here on November 10th.
I had to get out earlier this morning, and it was spitting down here in Franklin as well. It's kind of nuts, but I guess that's where we're at. Just be weather wise, y'all. In the second hour, we will visit with Michael Felder of Learfield Sports, talking a little college football. We have no college football coaching vacancies that have cropped up this weekend. It's the first time in over a month that we've not had a coach firing to talk about at the FBS level. So, but I'm sure we'll come up with something to talk about with Michael Felder in the next hour. In the next segment, we'll be joined by VALAIR SHABILLA of 615soccer.com, talking about our professional soccer entry, the boys in gold, and their trip to Miami this past weekend. Went about the way Wade expected it to, which is to say not very successful. But we will check in with VALAIR on that in the next segment. We'll also be talking some pro football, some pro basketball. We'll get into, like I said, a little college football. We will check on the PREDS as they get ready to go out of the country, and we will get into some NBA as well. Also, again, we will revisit high school football. Week 1 of the playoffs finally got wrapped up. I think somebody had to get pushed to Saturday. Did they not, Wade?
Yeah, it was at least 2 games over in East Tennessee that got moved to Saturday due to Mother Nature getting involved on Friday. But luckily, most of the games, albeit some did get delayed heavily, luckily the rain and storms got in earlier in the afternoon, and so we at least got most of the games in on Friday night.
Yeah. Speaking of games on Friday night, let's go ahead and get to this weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Monday Rundown is here, folks, and you know what that means. Each and every single Monday, our rundown is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County, so give them a call today. That number is 931-388-5831, or you can visit them online at zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Friday night football results at the high school level. Boyd Buchanan with a 42-17 win over Pope John Paul II. It was Brentwood defeating Rossview 33-14. Independence in double overtime after trailing 7-0 at the half came back to win 27-20. Again, in double overtime on the road at Clarksville. Donaldson Christian Academy with a 42-14 win over Providence Academy. It was Franklin Road Academy 49, Lakeway Christian 14. Kirkwood with a 31-7 win over Brighton. Lausanne defeated Davidson Academy 35-12. Riverdale 28, Lebanon 7 in a game that was televised and delayed and had at least one interesting call in that ball game. But Riverdale, again, with the 28-7 win at Lebanon. Lewis County 37, Houston County nothing. It was Christ Presbyterian defeating Lipscomb Academy 35-24. Marshall County with a 48-21 win over Liberty Creek. McCallie Downs Father Ryan 59-20. Memphis Central defeats Dixon County 24-10. And thoughts and prayers go out to Zeke Daniel, who had to be tended to on the field by first responders and taken off with a broken femur, as it turns out. Middle Tennessee Christian defeats Grace Baptist out of Chattanooga 62-14. Munford 60, Kenwood 14. Grace Christian out of Franklin 17, North Point Christian 7. Page all over Hendersonville 62-0. It was Sale Creek 39, Innovation Academy out of Robertson County nothing. Trinity Christian defeats Franklin Christian 55-7. Tyner with a 33-20 win over Watertown. Maplewood goes on the road, picks up a 24-6 win at Waverly. And Westmoreland, this one sounds like a pretty good one. Westmoreland 25, Camden Central 21.
Women's basketball scores, we got them from Friday, folks. Tennessee defeating ETSU 97-47. Belmont topping Brown 83-61. Wright State downing TSU 85-80. UT Southern with an 84-72 victory over Tennessee Wesleyan. On the NBA side of things, Friday night, Emirates NBA Cup action went in favor of the Grizzlies, who go to 1-1 in that competition with a 118-104 victory over the lowly Dallas Mavericks. College football Saturday. It was UT Martin defeating TSU 26-7. FIU a lot, MTSU a little. 56-30 was the official final score there. Vanderbilt with a 45-38 win over Auburn by the narrowest of margins in overtime. Austin Peay with a 41-38 win. That was 41-38 over Central Arkansas to cap your college football scores from Saturday.
Men's basketball from Saturday. There we go. Tennessee with a 95-56 win over Northern Kentucky. It was Vanderbilt going on the road, picking up a 105-93 win over Central Florida. Austin Peay defeated Air Force 74-54. Middle Tennessee State gets Webster 109-56. Belmont 87, Tennessee State 79. UT Southern with a 90-53 win over Southeast Baptist. It was Trevecca defeating Sewanee 115-78. Cumberland downs Union Commonwealth 75-63, and Fisk with an 86-69 win over Simmons. On the pitch, and again, we'll be talking about this one in the next segment with VALAIR SHABILLA, but Inter Miami finishes off the Nashville Soccer Club to the tune of 4-0.
Let's go to Sunday now, folks. Men's basketball action had one little old game, and it was not kind to Lipscomb, who fell to Mercer 92-77. Women's basketball, UT Chat defeating Lipscomb 59-56. UT Knoxville defeating UT Martin. That's the Lady Vols over the Skyhawks there. 72-61 was your final there. The Grizzlies led big, lost big, folks. NBA action yesterday as they fall to the Thunder 114-100. Women's basketball on tap this evening when Furman comes to Vanderbilt. Again, a 6 p.m. tip-off, and that one will be shown on the SEC network. The Preds are in action tonight up in New York versus the Rangers. 6 p.m. puck drop. You can see that one on FanDuel Sports South. And 7:15 on ABC. It'll be Monday Night Football as the Micah Parsons Bowl gets underway. More on that later. But Philadelphia is Green Bay tonight at 7:15 again on ABC, as long as you don't have YouTube TV. More on it later and more on these games later. But ladies and gentlemen, those were your scores. That's tonight's schedule, and that concludes today's rundown.
Story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top stories, 2 of them. It was a tough day in professional sports yesterday as we lost a couple of legends. NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue passed away Sunday at the age of 84. He had served as NFL Commissioner for 17 seasons, from 1989 when he took over for Roselle to 2006 when he yielded to Roger Goodell. And as I heard someone say on one of the football telecasts yesterday, basically cemented the National Football League as the preeminent league and sport in Northern America, basically, during his reign as commissioner. Negotiated some significant television contracts, among other things. Paul was the ultimate steward of the game, tall in stature, humble in presence, and decisive in his loyalty to the NFL, Goodell said. I am forever grateful and proud to have Paul as my friend and mentor. I cherish the innumerable hours we spent together where he helped shape me as an executive, but also as a man, husband, and father. 20 new stadiums were built across the National Football League during Tagliabue's 17-year tenure as commissioner.
Unprecedented kind of riches and expansion with him at the helm, right? And this was my commissioner. This was my NFL commissioner growing up. And yes, taking them from 28 to 32 teams, building their first, crazy to think about, but didn't have a website back in the day because, well, there wasn't much of an internet until such time down the road. But also forming the NFL Network. Guy did a lot of great stuff, and certainly it was sad to hear. Didn't necessarily know that he was in poor health, but didn't make the news any less jarring yesterday when it comes across. He will be missed. And yeah, you're right. 17 years of kind of growth, expansion, and really just bringing the game to new heights. He will be missed, not just as an NFL figure, but certainly as a sports figure.
Died of heart failure again at the age of 84, and dealing with Parkinson's disease as well. Los Angeles lost 2 teams. The Browns became the Ravens all during his tenure. Tagliabue was the one who made the decision to call off NFL games the weekend after 9/11. So I mean, he did a lot of really pivotal, significant. I guess you would kind of expect that. His I guess shortcomings was his dealing with and stance on concussions and trauma. Really got kind of taken to task for that at the time. And though most people kind of speak glowingly of him and his tenure, that was one of the drawbacks at the time. So again, impactful career though. 17 years as commissioner. Paul Tagliabue passes away at the age of 84. The basketball community lost a similarly impactful figure over the weekend. Lenny Wilkins, Basketball Hall of Famer, both as a player and as a coach, passed away at the age of 88. Coached 2,487 games in the National Basketball Association, which is a record. Became a coach while he was still playing. again, inducted into the Hall of Fame for his playing career, his coaching career, and as part of the 1992 U.S. Olympic team, often known as the Dream Team. He was an assistant coach on that squad, as well as the Atlanta Games in 1996. Adam Silver's comments, Lenny Wilkens represented the very best of the NBA as a Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame coach, and one of the game's most respected ambassadors. So much so that 4 years ago, Lenny received the unique distinction of being named one of the league's 75 greatest players and 15 greatest coaches of all time.
Heck of a career, right? I mean, not just playing one of the all-time great Seattle Supersonics back when those that was a franchise, and some glory years, with the championship there. But yeah, remember him on the sidelines as the Hawks coach, certainly as the Raptors coach for a long time, and then even one final stint there with the Knicks. But more so, remember him growing up with the Hawks and the Raptors. Multi time award-winning, championship-winning caliber coach, and a guy that did a lot for the game beyond what was out on the hardwood there. So that was one that really was a gut punch yesterday as well.
No doubt. 9-time All-Star as a player. First coach to win 1,000 games. That's a hell of a double right there. And as you said, led the Seattle Supersonics to the NBA championship in 1979, which kind of made him a god and a legend in the Pacific Northwest from there on. So yeah, tough loss there. And as this Associated Press story says, he did it all with grace, something he was proud of. And watching this guy on the sidelines, I mean, I recall you would never know if he was up 20 or down 20. And he said, leaders don't yell and scream. So there you go. 1,332 career coaching victories, since surpassed by Don Nelson and Pop. But Lenny Wilkens passes away at the age of 88. Again, condolences to the Tagliabue and the Wilkens families and both the NFL and the NBA communities. A couple of great tragic losses there with those two individuals. Let's go ahead and take a break here as we get cranked up on the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll visit with VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer. Stick around.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Hey, welcome back into the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now to talk a little footy, it's VALAIR SHABILLA from 615soccer.com. VALAIR, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having me again. I want to say, Wade, the beard is looking good, man.
Hey, thank you. I got a long ways to go if you catch my drift there, partner, but we're trying, right?
Best of luck.
You guys both sport that well. Me, my face starts itching and I've got spots that won't fill in and that kind of thing. So we just don't even try. VALAIR, again, as I mentioned in our open, Wade wasn't necessarily surprised at the way things went over the weekend in Miami. I doubt that you were either, but the volume, 4-0 final, Inter Miami finishes off the Nashville Soccer Club season in Game 3 of the opening round of the MLS playoffs. What's the level of disappointment just in terms of, 4-0?
Yeah, I think for the game in itself, it's a fairly disappointing end to the season that has had a lot of highs and the most highs of any Nashville SC season, really. So I think for the game in itself, anybody watching that knows that if Nashville SC played their best soccer, it wouldn't have gone that way and it shouldn't have gone that way. But I think there were a lot of self-inflicted wounds in terms of the defensive errors throughout the series, to be fair, and even before the series, because these two teams played against each other in the last regular season game as well. So made for this weird 4-game thing that kept happening. It was like Groundhog Day. Every day I woke up and had to cover this team play in Miami and Messi, and it was just, it's one of those things where it can be a positive to play a team that many times because you get to learn about them. I do think playing Miami specifically that many times did affect Nashville negatively, simply because Miami has the better individual quality. They have the better individual quality of any other team in MLS. So Nashville's only way to beat Miami would be the collective, right? And to make up for it in the collective and being organized and being that collective team. That said, you as a collective, you can maybe sneak in a win, maybe 2 out of 4 if you're really lucky. But in a 4-game sort of look, a 3-game series, that is, you're not really gonna be able to top the quality 3 times or at least twice to get enough. So I think that was a big issue. And then, like I said, it's just the way the game played off. It is disappointing. However, all that said, this is the most successful and best season for Nashville SC soccer. And I don't think that's gonna, maybe that doesn't feel good today since it's been a couple days since the loss. But if you ask Nashville SC fans a few weeks from now, I think they're gonna still remember 2025 very fondly.
VALAIR, when you look at the match, having watched what we watched, over the course of 90 minutes, did BJ Callahan kind of empty the clip, so to speak? Did he try everything at his disposal in your mind to try and at least somehow grab a win or at least force, penalty kicks?
In this one, yes. I think he really just said, let's just put every guy who can score, who's ever scored in their lives, on the pitch as much as possible, and let's just see if anything can be, which kind of contributes to the 4 goals, right? I mean, when you look at it, Miami's last 2 goals came because Nashville were pushing at a level that they wouldn't have been pushing to that level if the game wasn't nearing the end, right? So even 3-0, I think, would have been a more appropriate result than 4-0. I think, not to say that Miami didn't deserve it, but at one point there's one team throwing the kitchen sink and another team that's just countering against, pretty tired defense. That's it. I think game one is pretty much where Nashville lost this series, really. I think game one, BJ Callahan got the tactics a little bit wrong. And I think that kind of made game three a lot more interesting. And then the other thing that played into it was, of course, the Suarez suspension. Suarez being one of the best set strikers in the world, just in terms of history of the game, even missing the game was actually a positive for Miami. I truly believe that, and I think that played because they had a guy in there who is willing to make the runs, willing to play for the team rather than just be the superstar that Suarez was and just kind of wait for the ball to come to him. And I think that really ended up pushing Nashville tactically to stay more in their box, to force more mistakes. That new shape of Miami without Suarez just turned out being much better.
You mentioned that too, Valair. You know, we're so used to Messi just bagging goals left and right, but to me, it really cuts even deeper when you see him providing service on the final two, just because when you think you've got this guy pinned down, and then Jordi Alba, obviously, throw Suarez out, but you still got Jordi Alba and top-notch talent, you know, worldwide still on this roster. It was deflating as a Nashville fan to me, and it sounds like there was, in this particular game, this one game situation, there really weren't a ton of positives, but that's why I wanted to ask you, because it seems like Callahan emptied the deck at whatever he had at his disposal. And I would rather have this result and at least have had a shot to maybe win a game than to try and somehow play safe and you lose 2-1, right?
And
that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. No, that's it, right? I mean, there's no playing it safe against Miami because Messi's going to find a way. And they tried to play it safe in that game one that I told you about, we were just talking about. And they won, Miami won 3-1 pretty easily. Nashville got a goal in like the 96th minute or something, so it didn't really matter at that point. But yeah, I mean, he went for it. I think there was the disallowed goal that Sam Surge scored really put a damper on Nashville. They came out of the second half. Nashville were pretty fiery coming out of the second half. I don't know what Callahan told them between the halves, but they were different. They looked like they were up for it. But I mean, that period lasted maybe 10 minutes of the match. So overall, when you look at the series, the 3 games, and even in that third game, let's just take that as an example, Nashville were only the better team for 10%, 20% of the match. That's being generous even. So even, yeah, there was that period and there was that recalled goal, which honestly, there's no reason a goal should be disallowed for that foul that was called on Sam Surridge. But I don't want to spend this whole time talking about referees because, to be honest, again, even with the referee mistakes, I think Nashville SC could have and should have done better in that game. I don't know if a win was a realistic thing, to be honest with you. I just don't think 4-0 is also representative of this team either.
Valair Shabilla of 615 Soccer joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Valair, you said that, you know, once a little time goes by, this is a season that fans can look back on fondly. You know, do you feel like this is a kind of a stepping stone for this team? You know, when you look at 2025 in its totality with the U.S. Open Cup, with, you know, some of the play that we've gotten out of this team this year, obviously with BJ Callahan getting through his first full season in that position, what do you build on heading into 2026 at the MLS level?
Yeah, it's a huge positive and a huge big stepping stone. I think I would have said that honestly without the trophy. The trophy makes it a lot sweeter. The trophy being that sort of having a winning mentality at the club, having this sort of taste for a win that I think pushes players, and it's also helpful in recruiting, right? Because now you're not, and it's not only just the trophy, they won the trophy, but also Nashville are going to be competing in the Champions Cup again, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is, again, I've talked about it on this show maybe since 2 years ago about how important it is to compete in those continental competitions, right? It's the Champions League of this region, right? So when you look at the Champions Cup and the opportunity that Nashville has simply because of that winning that cup, that's going to be a helpful hand when they go into to maybe sell the project to these players to say, hey, you'll be competing against big teams in the region. If Nashville goes on to win the Champions Cup or do really well in the Champions Cup, There's an opportunity for a Club World Cup appearance in this foreseeable future. These are big sellable points for players, especially younger players that Nashville are trying to get, let alone obviously the success of winning a trophy in itself and the project that BJ Callahan's building. So that's why I do think it's a big, important stepping stone. The other thing is just on the pitch. Let's look at how Nashville plays soccer. You know, the way Nashville plays right now, and I think Wade was kind of getting to it earlier, it's a much more easy on the eyes way of playing soccer. It's way more entertaining. It's way more exciting. And they were able to maintain a pretty good home form, even with playing this exciting soccer. I think when you look at the younger players that are coming through as well, thanks to BJ Callahan as well, and the work he's been doing, including some of these younger players, it's more exciting. It's more attacking. It's the team scored 58 goals in 2025 in MLS season. That's more than they've ever scored in any given MLS season. So you're looking at a team that has seen a huge improvement in terms of style, in terms of results, and also in terms of trophies, because look, we've talked about it. This didn't even have a trophy until now. So it's kind of a big deal, I think, and a big stepping forward. And there's a big offseason coming up for Mike Jacobs and the front office for Nashville SC, because 13 players are either out of contract or within a club option. So there's a huge decisions to be made, huge addition to be made. And we'll see where they go. But in terms of 2025, I don't think it could have gone much better than I mean, it could have gone much better, but I don't think anybody anticipated it going much better than it has already.
To your point, Belair, and I agree with this, full stop just right here at the beginning. Your colleague Ben Wright said his goals for the team coming into the season, number one, be fun to watch again. They were that and then some, and that's really anything else beyond that I was going to be tickled with, right? And so the fact that they had such a great season in terms of success was outstanding. I do want to ask you, just because of the success and the nature of the business, any whispers when a coach like BJ Callahan, who's obviously got a great network around him and has had some success at other levels, any whispers already with him? How long can maybe the band stay together in Nashville in your mind?
It's very rare for an MLS coach to be tipped by European teams or just teams outside of MLS. So I would say other than the MLS teams around Nashville and the national team, that would probably be what BJ Callahan future looks like. I mean, you can't rule anything out. You don't know who is out there watching and who's out there scouting coaches just as much as they are scouting players. No whispers at the moment. I don't think there will be any. I think another successful season might start the BJ Callahan to the national team conversation again, something that a lot of the national team fans saw for a little bit on an interim basis, and they liked what they saw under BJ Callahan. Pochettino seems to be the guy going forward, at least for the World Cup. Again, he's just had one season and 10 games in his entire coaching career. So it's gonna take a little bit more, I think, for somebody to take a chance on him, especially for the national team. But I do think it's more likely going to come from the national team than any other MLS team or teams outside of MLS.
So no Bob Bradley going to coach Egypt type situation here for BJ Callahan. We don't see him, as the head coach of Madagascar next year or anything in your mind?
I'd be surprised. But hey, look, with the opportunity to coach in the World Cup, you never know. I mean, this is a big deal. And now there are like 12,000 teams that make it to the World Cup these days. So there's more opportunities, I guess. But like I said, I don't anticipate anything like that. I think he's very committed and very much Nashville's happy with him. He's happy in Nashville. And I feel like, actually, if you ask him right now, he'll tell you that he has unfinished business here. And I think he wants to win the lot with Nashville. And I think he's going to do everything to do that. He's a very committed guy. And every time we speak to him, I mean, it's like he's a hungry guy for success.
That puts me at ease, but I am curious, what are the immediate question marks about roster now in terms of who comes back, who maybe is definitely out the door? What can you tell us kind of on a Cliff Notes version of that right now?
Yeah, essentially a lot of the old guard, right? A lot of the OGs, if you would, from the 2020 season that came through, your Walker Zimmerman, your Joe Willis, Dan Lovitz. These are the guys that conversations are happening right now. And if I had to guess, Nashville SC has probably taken care of business already. These players probably already know their future. When that's going to be public, might be a week, might be a month. We don't know yet. Some negotiations are probably happening. A guy like Walker Zimmerman, the captain of the club, is out of contract. No option. He was on a DP contract earning multiple millions of dollars. That's not going to happen for his new contract. It's not going to be a DP contract. Almost exclusively, it's not going to be a DP contract. So does he go around and see if anybody else in MLS gives him, more money? Is he, these guys are also have young families. Is money the most important thing, or is being stable where your family is and you're happy more important? For Walker Zimmerman specifically, he's the club captain and the face of the franchise in a lot of ways, So yeah, maybe somebody else offers you a little bit more money, but is it worth it to take that risk or stay here? So these are things, and it's not just. I'm assuming that they're talking to Walker Zimmerman and negotiating. That's not confirmed either, But I mean, I think it's worth Nashville SC to give a contract to Walker Zimmerman at least and test out the waters, But if I was him, I would also be looking at my options, because when you're out of contract, you're a free agent. You're a big name in this market. You're a big name in MLS. You've won Defender of the Year 3 times. Maybe you want to go try something different. And obviously, I wouldn't blame him for wanting to do that. But like I said, those are the people. Those are the conversations. I think they are having most. The good thing about Nashville SC is both Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge are guaranteed through 2026, and I believe through 2027 as well. So no contract negotiation there with the two big sort of attacking players. They have they're solid in terms of the midfield with Patrick Yazbek and Eddie Taxeth still new to the team and still, just signed long-term deals. They have a good amount of players on these deals. Andy Nahar just renewed his contract. So they have a good amount of players. It's just kind of refining around it. And like I said, it's the old guard, right? How many of the 2020 class we're going to see Nashville SC part ways with, when you look at their ages, I'm sure Nashville SC would want to get younger as well. A guy like Teal Bunbury, he's been on the roster for a while in his mid-30s. That's usually the time that teams move on from players. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Nashville SC get younger as we go forward.
Valair, you mentioned Zimmerman, obviously. You mentioned Willis, and those are a couple of names that even casuals are somewhat familiar with in terms of NSC. Is that something that Nashville kind of takes into consideration as they are trying to continue to grow that buzz around the franchise and the sport in this area? I mean, how much does that mean going into contract considerations for those two guys in particular?
I think so. I think they have to take that into consideration because it's important for Nashville to be relevant in this market. When you look at how terrible the Titans are, and quite frankly, how terrible the Preds are, and I'm a fan of both of those teams. So I'm saying this as more of a fan rather than anything.
Sure.
I think we've talked about this before. It's a great opportunity for Nashville SC to stamp its mark on this market as the only winning team, the only fun to watch team, as Wade has been saying. It's really important for them to capture the fandom, the sports fandom in the market. That said, what captures the most sports fandom in any market is winning. That's the number one thing. So as much as Walker Zimmerman is a big name and Joe Willis and all these guys, and they're loved by fans and they're always going to be appreciated, I think, by Nashville SC fans, I think at the end of the day, fans will take an MLS Cup over them. And that's really the truth of sports. So if they're coming back and they're saying, hey, we will play for you, in Walker Zimmerman's case, but I would like to keep my DP spot, I just don't think that's a winning strategy. I don't think Mike Jacobs would go for something like that, right? So then that becomes this what can we work out sort of situation, and you evaluate their popularity, you evaluate the fans' love, but you evaluate that within everything else, as in their performance on the pitch, how much you evaluate them, and how much they are asking for, and that's really what it comes down to.
Shifting gears, well, let the two of you all look at the MLS postseason / playoff picture going forward now, with Inter Miami having won this round of the playoffs, and what else is out there, because I got no idea, but it's certainly worth talking about, I would think.
Yeah, a lot of big ones, a lot of big matchups. When you look at the West, I think the two best teams in the West are Vancouver and LAFC, and they're playing against each other in the conference semifinal. So that's a big one. When you look at in the East, obviously Miami, Cincinnati, all eyes are on that. But Philadelphia won the Supporters' Shield. And they're going against an NYCFC side that just won on the road against Charlotte. It's going to be good. It's going to be exciting. And the most exciting thing about this is that the playoff format is one game only. They're all elimination games. I don't have to watch this series thing that I truly do not enjoy. So it's really nice. It's really nice to see this one-off games. It's going to be all out. You know, the higher seed is hosting, right? So it's going to be really good. I think it's going to be an exciting one. And while Miami, I would wager, are still the favorites for MLS Cup, I think getting there is going to be a little difficult. You got a Cincinnati team that's a very stubborn team that allows very few goals and have really big talent up top. So we'll see what Miami-Cincinnati goes. It's a little bit of a hate watch for any Nashville SC fan, I would say. Cincinnati is kind of a rival for a lot of the OG Nashville SC fans, and the Miami just is hated by pretty much anybody outside the 301 area code, I would say. So is it 301? I don't know. Whatever.
305.
305. Thank you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Pitbull's going to be coming after you, Valair, for that.
I know we're bald brothers, you know, so we got to keep it together. Sorry.
That won't be enough to save you. You know, Tony Montana is lurking around the corner, tapping at your door. Valair, you did mention San Diego, and I'm curious about them. How long can that Cinderella run continue in your mind? They got Minnesota at home, but I mean, you just mentioned Vancouver and LA are kind of waiting no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, hey, right now they're playing with house money. San Diego's playing with house money. On your first year as a franchise in MLS, you don't only make the playoffs, you set a record for the most points made by a expansion side. You also win the entire Western Conference, which is an interesting thing to do in your first season. St. Louis did it a couple years ago in their first year, but that turned out to be a really bad omen for them. Since then, things have not worked out. But what differentiates the San Diego side is that they play really nice soccer. They play beautiful soccer. They're a fully fledged team that's able to take teams apart and play. There were a couple of worrying signs against Portland in that 3-game series. And Minnesota, man, they get under your skin. And I am not sure if San Diego has what it takes to take over, to win Minnesota. I will say playing at home definitely helps. And definitely those fans seem to be showing up for San Diego. They have some good players, including former Nashville SC player Anibal Godoy, who is just a joy to watch every time, because not only for what he does on the pitch, but everything else around it, because he's always starting something with someone, which is great. And then but Minnesota, they're gonna be a pretty arrogant side, I would say, in a good way. You know, they're a defensive side. They'll wait for you. They don't care if they have 10%, 20% possession of the ball. At the end of the day, they're going to try to punch you in the face and win. And it's exciting all around. I mean, and the one thing about the playoffs I'll say as well is that it's free on Apple TV. So you don't even have to have a subscription. All you have to do is download it. And honestly, even if you're not into soccer that much, it's playoffs, man. It's fun. Watch it if you,
It's worth watching for the Apple TV production alone. That is, I would contend, the best produced app/broadcast interface that there is around. It runs circles around FanDuel Sports South. That's all I'm gonna say on that matter, Valair. Hey, but with that being said, and we'll get into an adjacent topic in a second, but I like San Diego versus Minnesota because granted they're only going to play one game, but you can't get a better weather matchup in terms of contrast and styles between those two teams, right?
Absolutely not. I've been to Minnesota Stadium in February, and I've been to San Diego this summer. And man, I have a very strong preference, let me tell you.
Big Minnesota guy, right?
What's that?
Big Minnesota guy. What you're saying?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love the rain that also turns into snow, and that just the wind that makes your face, you just want to not exist. Yeah, that's it. That's the weather I like. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that we've gone this way, and I kind of started thinking about it when you mentioned that all of these upcoming playoff matchups are one game, because it feels like MLS is just trying to get the season over with at this point. Because I saw something over the weekend. One, obviously, soccer, not my wheelhouse. Was not familiar with the Canadian Premier League. Had never even considered the possibility of snow soccer. But there was a game over the weekend where some hit what they're now calling an icicle kick for a win, as Atletico Ottawa defeated Calgary. Look at that.
I liked it better too. I don't know if we got the full clip, producer Mark, on the corner kick. The guy's dreadlocks are, yeah, you can see them right here at the end. They're frozen. The dreadlocks are icicles. You could stab somebody with one of those things. It was epic. It reminded me of the USA Costa Rica game years ago, VALAIR. The Snow Classico, they called it, that famous game that may or may not should have been played, but we'll take the win.
That was in Minnesota, I believe. So full circle.
There we go.
Comes back around. The Snow Classico, the icicle kick I was unaware of, though. That is elite stuff right there. And anytime you break out the orange ball, that's when you know it's rough.
That was a final as well. That game. It was the final for the Canadian Premier League. So Atletico Ottawa just won.
Because they don't want to play in any more of that.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy stuff. VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. VALAIR, as always, we appreciate you taking some time with us and sharing your knowledge, and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, VALAIR.
Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports today. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stick around.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, continues. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Some interesting news coming out of Major League Baseball over the weekend. It's got nothing to do with free agency or managerial hirings, although who's left? Colorado still hasn't hired a manager, much to Thomas Harding's consternation, I'm sure. But bigger concerns in Cleveland in particularly, and for Major League Baseball writ large, as a couple of Guardian pitchers have been indicted in a betting scheme. Emmanuel Class, I've never heard this guy's name pronounced, and it's kind of sad because he was an all-star 2 years ago. Might be Clase, I'm not sure, C-L-A-S-E. And Luis Ortiz, both indicted on wire fraud conspiracy, honest services wire fraud conspiracy, conspiracy to influence sporting contests by bribery, and money laundering conspiracy. alleged to have, on multiple occasions, each manipulated pitch outcomes for the benefit of gamblers, taking money in return. Each betting question, according to the article here on CBSSports.com, was either regarding the velocity of a specific pitch or a ball or strike call. In other words, a prop bet. These are charges that could carry up to 65 years in prison if convicted on all charges. That's a lot to unpack here, man, because Class A was suspended earlier. Both these guys were suspended during the season. Class A was scheduled to make almost $5 million this past season, $6.5 million next season, and had options for 27 and 28 worth up to $20 million. He took payoffs, allegedly, of roughly $5,000 at a time. That's not exactly a great return on your investment, I don't think. But yeah, again, there's a lot here just because MLB and pro sports in general have just gotten so in bed with gambling. I mean, how? That's just a lot to me.
It's a lot, and MLB is the ones where they're the OGs of the gambling scandals, right? So I mean, they're just now getting in the digital version. This is the 21st century, not the 19 version, I suppose, in that sense. But this is wild because number one, yeah, you're betting $4,000 on individual pitches. Your odds are not really that great. I mean, at the most, you're going to get back maybe $4,000, which I'm never going to, turn free $4,000 down if I could rig it in my favor, I suppose. But it's not as if it's a $4,000 that's going to pay out, $100K or anything. But we talked about this when this happened. I can't remember if it was you or myself or Calvin. We showed some of these clips, and these pitches are definitely suspect. So much so that I love this part of the indictment, that Class A in particular throws a pitch that's so far in the dirt, you would need a shovel to be able to get low enough to hit it, I think. And a guy swings at it, and the accomplice, I guess, in this case, the bettor, the friend, the ally, whatever your term you want to use, he sends a text message because the gentleman for the Dodgers swings at the pitch, comes up empty, not supposed to swing at it. It's supposed to be ball four straight in the dirt. And he sends a man hanging himself emoji or a toilet paper gif to the guy. Class A waits till after the game is over. They won that game, by the way. After the game is over, he replies and sends a sad puppy dog face, according to the indictment. So he waited hours after the fact to commiserate with his buddy, saying, hey, sorry, that was supposed to be ball four. I can't help it. The guy swung at a pitch 6 feet underground right there. But yeah, at the time, these are world-class pitchers, and some of these just looked a little suspect at the time. And now we know why.
Yeah, clearly. MLB spokespeople are saying that, there's nothing to fear here. We caught the miscreants, all is well. You don't have to worry about baseball being impacted by this because we've caught the guys that are doing it. I'm not sure that it's that simple, but that's certainly a theory, I guess.
Yeah, and MLB is interesting in particular, right? Because it's the one sport where it's a batter versus a pitcher, and the prop bets, these lightning bets or these flash bets is really what they're called, where you can bet pitch by pitch, you can bet at bat by at bat. But the fact that you can do that, there's just enough time that you could maybe, collect your bearings and get a bet down before the next pitch. The pitch clock reduces a little bit. But we're not talking an NFL play where you can do the same thing. You can bet, will this next play be a run, a pass, et cetera, et cetera. But you're talking about 11 guys that kind of have to be in on the act a little bit for things to go a certain way there, as opposed to, hey, you got one pitcher, you got one batter. If this was supposed to be a strike and a guy throws one, 10 feet above the guy's head and the batter swings at it, we're just talking about the reverse situation here, right? I mean, it is the one sport that does leave just enough wiggle room for a one pitch or a one at bat scenario to kind of play out a certain way in terms of the riggage.
And this is kind of your wheelhouse, Wade. I'm not nearly as familiar with the prop bet concept and that kind of thing. I know they're out there, but I don't know how much of a reprobate do you have to be betting those in baseball, in particular, as you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you got a guy on the inside who can guarantee you 4K, I suppose it's not a bad situation, right? Or if you're a friend of the Alabama baseball manager who can rig a certain guy's going to throw versus LSU, then yeah, you feel pretty confident. But yeah, otherwise, and like I said, you're not getting a great return. Most of these are small. You're going to make your money back and then some, but you're not getting these super glamorous payouts. So in this case in particular, none of the risk matches up with the reward, because this is yucky stuff and some serious allegations. And, we've seen leagues, whether it's they are so in bed with gambling, to use your phrase a minute ago, but also at the same time, they have to be so distant in terms of integrity of the game that even a whiff of anything like this, we've seen lifetime bans in the NBA. We've seen lengthy suspensions across multiple sports. One of them plays on the Tennessee Titans. I mean, things kind of happen a certain way when you're even associated with this type of stuff. So I'll be real fascinated to see what happens with these guys, both legally and in the game of baseball.
Yeah, there was a guy that was in the Pirates organization that got a lifetime ban earlier this year, I think. I mean, so again, they're finding them, but still, it's the optics aren't great, and I think that considering just how involved pro sports and gambling have become, I think it's just a tough look all the way around. I guess there are those that would say, see, this is what happens. And I don't know that that's necessarily accurate, but again, it just isn't a good look.
Yeah, like when you got a BetMGM banner hanging at Nissan Stadium and Calvin Ridley is out there playing on your team, I mean, it kind of tells you both sides of the equation, right? And then these are low, I will admit this, they are low frequency, unless you put your real tinfoil hat on. And some people think that every play is rigged, and that's in regard to betting or not, right? Ask any Tennessee fan who watches the Alabama game every week, and they'll tell you that they're in the tank for Alabama. But different set of circumstances here. The thing with this is it's so digitalized now, it's a blessing and a curse. You can do it at any given moment on your phone, but because it's digitalized, all that is doing, the second somebody drops $4,000 on an obscure player or an obscure prop like that, that's immediately getting flagged. And once it's flagged, it's kind of not hard to connect all the dots. And so we really kind of shouldn't be surprised by some of this when we see it.
Absolutely. Let's take a break here as we close out the first hour of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Let's come back. Let's talk a little football. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Going right now to talk a little professional football. Brian Daboll becomes the second National Football League coach dismissed since the start of the 2025 season. Daboll 20-40-1 over 3 and a portion of a 4th season with the Giants. Mike Kafka has been named interim coach for the Giants. Daboll dismissed after New York lost its 4th straight game yesterday, falling to Chicago. And, you know, there kind of been rumblings. And I don't know if he thought that because he was playing a rookie quarterback all of a sudden with Jackson Dart that he'd be okay, or what his approach was. But 2-8 to this point this season. Things weren't great.
No, weren't great, and you're right. Went to the rookie quarterback and bought him some time. Looked like it might buy him a little more time, but hey, as fate would have it, the moment Russell Wilson comes back out on the field, you knew that was a wrap for Daboll. We'll give you all the Jackson Dart leash that you want, but when he goes out and gets hurt yesterday, and you don't even have the guts to go with Jameis Winston, you roll Russ back out there. That was borderline tarmac firing, and the banners had been flying for weeks. But when you blow a lead like that to the Bears, it feels like if Dart would have stayed in the game, they probably maybe could have somehow still scratched and eked out a win. They were playing well enough to do so. But a 4-game losing streak after, the Eagles win bought him a little extra time, not as much as maybe we initially had thought.
Yeah, and to your point, I wasn't keeping up, but when you go back to Russ, who's a guy that you had already sat, maybe if you go to Jameis, it's a little bit different look, but that almost feels like it's kind of sealing your own warrant right there with that particular move. The Giants have dismissed 4 different coaches over the last 8 years. Ben McAdoo, Pat Shermer, who, by the way, recently was stripped of play calling duties in Colorado, and Joe Judge, all lasting fewer than 2 full seasons. So, maybe it's not Daboll.
No, we're talking about a pretty inept franchise, and I can say that as a fan of the other inept franchise in New York, right? So, we're talking about a pretty grim situation outside of the 2 Super Bowls, and that's the age-old question with the Giants is, are those 2 kind of fluke runs or magical runs, worth the pain and tragedy that you've had to endure along the way? Not really sure. You can make an argument for or against. And chalk it up to we're officially old, Mo. Yeah, Mike Kafka, former Northwestern legend back when I was an MTSU undergrad, under pup there. He's now the head coach, so best of luck. It won't be any better. They got some great building pieces, though, on the defensive line in particular with Kayvon Thibodeau and obviously Abdul Carter. So whoever comes in, this was a season that the Giants are underachieving, but they're not that far off. If a few different games go their way and the talent is there, someone could come in and really kind of make a run at it, especially given what we've seen from Dart thus far.
Yeah, if you can keep Dart healthy, this was the 4th time he's been evaluated for a concussion this season. And that's not good for your young quarterback. But Malik Neighbors is
obviously out. Yeah.
So yeah, there's some pieces there if you can just get them healthy and keep them healthy. And at 2-8, it's looking like they're going to have a pretty good draft pick in April as well. So there will be worse places to be, it sounds like. Now, that's just in terms of what you got to work with. Now, who you're working for, as Wade mentioned, might not be the best situation.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is, similar to the Jets because you can paint the rosiest of pictures and, hey, we have buku draft picks or we have buku talent coming back. But for some reason, things just do not work out for those two particular franchises. And it will be a job that certainly attracts, you would think, some quality candidates, but buyer beware because, yeah, it is a tough situation there, despite that talent that they do have potentially that's waiting to be unlocked.
Derrick Henry rushed for 75 yards in the Ravens win over Minnesota yesterday, giving him more yards for his professional career than he had in high school.
Finally.
Which is a bit, finally. I mean, which is a bit of a milestone, I guess. He has now rushed for 12,127 career yards in the NFL in 4 years at Yulee High School in Florida. 4 years. He rushed for 12,124 yards. Do that math. But he went past Thurman Thomas and Franco Harris yesterday with that 75 yards. He is the 17th member of the 12,000-yard club. And every other NFL running back that has rushed for at least that many yards who is eligible for induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I don't know that Frank Gore is eligible yet, but other than that, yeah, everybody is in that hits that mark.
So. Should have had even more yards yesterday too, Mo. I don't know what Harbaugh and the offensive staff have got going on there, but they keep giving the ball to Justice Hill down near the goal line. Should give Henry the rock, man. Let him boost those numbers a little bit. Still a nice victory, and they are suddenly resurgent into the Hall of Fame point. It would be sweet to see him get a championship ring to really kind of cap things off.
Absolutely. Speaking of Henry's former team, the Tennessee Titans over the weekend released Quandre Diggs again, second time in as many seasons. I'm not sure if this was, giving a veteran a shot at hooking on with somebody or if this was just, another situation to give some young guys a little bit more run, Kevin Winston Jr. in particular, but Diggs is no longer with the Titans.
Yeah, and we talked about them signing Jarek Reed the other day, and we said, you probably won't be a great thing if this guy sees much of the field unless something crazy happens. Well, something crazy has happened, so maybe he will get on the field a little bit when they come back out. So going to be interesting, and yeah, maybe a chance to latch on. Be curious to see. You would assume he'll at least ink with somebody, whether that's a full-fledged deal or even a practice squad deal. Somebody will take a flyer on him, you'd think.
You'd like to think he could help somebody out for sure. As the Titans come back from the bye and get set for a matchup with the Texans this weekend. Texans who defeated Jacksonville 36-29 over the weekend. I don't know if you saw any of this or not, but I watched enough of it to know that Aaron Rodgers was not good last night. Chargers win 25-10. A-Rod throws a pair of picks. And the Chargers were there for the taking until they weren't because Pittsburgh just kept misfiring. He was either missing high or he was throwing at two guys in blue jerseys. And I think he wound up completing 51% of his passes. I don't know what the raw numbers were, but that's kind of stuck in my head as I was reading through socials and that kind of thing. Just not a great night. And the thing about it, for Pittsburgh coming off that win over the Colts a week ago, it's like every time you feel like this team is getting ready to get some positive momentum going, they take another step back. Last night was one of those steps back.
Absolutely. And, mercifully, luckily, didn't watch any of this game until, I watched the last 5 minutes of it, but that game was long gone by then. This was an ugly, ugly game, befitting of these two franchises, right? I mean, the Chargers, and given Harbaugh and his the way he kind of is so odd and quirky, and that whole family is really odd and quirky. You had that factor. You got the Steelers, who were just flat out odd and enigma-like in their own. And to your point, yeah, I mean, even in the post-game press conference, when they asked Mike Tomlin, they said, well, how would you assess Aaron Rodgers? And he looked and said, well, how would you? And it's the next question, right? I mean, that kind of tells you things are not good. And this is another ebb and flow in the Steelers. They do this every single year. They will go 9-8 until the end of time. They will win games they're not supposed to win. They will lose games that you maybe think. Again, we talked last week about the Chargers and their banged up, bruised offensive line and how bad they've been when their offensive line is not healthy this season. All three of their losses coming when they're missing Joe Alt. But somehow, some way, it was good enough to beat the Steelers last night thanks to some pretty bad quarterback play.
Yeah, and they are just tough to figure out for a number of reasons. Like you said, they feel like 9-8. If you just pencil that in at the beginning of the season, they're going to find a way to get there. And you know, for all of the off-season hullabaloo regarding Aaron Rodgers coming to Pittsburgh, I mean, I can't think this is what you wanted, but at the same time, I can't think you can be surprised.
Can't necessarily be surprised. You know, we've seen Rodgers is not going out and lighting it up every single week. And, you know, you got to give a lot of credit to the Chargers defense, which is one of the top 5 defenses in the entire NFL. But you weren't expecting it to be this bad. And the fact is, when Jaylen Warren doesn't get, they're almost Colts-like at this point. Rodgers is such a statue back there because of age, Father Time being undefeated and whatnot. You have to have some element of run, or you have to have some element of play action, or you are extremely limited. And I watched this guy do this for the last season in New York. He has no wheels at this point, unless you're rolling him out of the pocket for one of those Hail Marys. You have to have that element of run, or you have to have that element of play action, or you are extremely limited in the plays that you can call for this guy. And when you're in a situation like they were, chasing the game basically from the jump, I know they led it 3-2 and all, but when you're basically chasing the game from the jump, that is a wrap. This team is not equipped to come from behind in that situation, kind of like that.
Rams pick up a big NFC West win, 42-26 over San Francisco. With that win, Matthew Stafford got to 500 for his career. That's a 500 winning percentage, not 500 wins. But pretty amazing. He has now 115, 115, and 1 for his career. And when you think about it, you got to realize this guy spent a lot of time on some bad Detroit teams.
Yep,
Detroit teams.
No doubt. You know, that trade was a real blessing for him, and in a weird sense, you know, started the Lions run with golf here. It was a win-win for both of those guys. Stafford's flying. He's flying up the boards, Mo. He's now just ever so slightly trailing Drake May for your MVP betting at the moment, because this guy has been – we didn't see him all summer. We were wondering, you know, there was rumors going around he might be cloned, you know, might be a body double, because we didn't see him all summer, and we weren't even sure if he was going to start the regular season. Not only did he start, when he's healthy, he has still got the goods. Kind of the anti. I know Rodgers got him by a few years, but kind of the anti-Rodgers in this sense. He's older in age, but he's still got the goods, and that offense is humming yet again.
With that win, the Rams and the Seahawks are tied atop the NFC West at 7-2 each. 49ers fall to 6-4. And yeah, like you said, he is, I mean, I think we all knew he was good. I think we all knew that he's borderline great. Just didn't know that he was going to be able to channel it again this time around. That 7-2 is the best record in the NFC, pending the Eagles' outcome tonight. So,
yeah, the Rams are right on schedule. I mean, this was the team that was the only real threat to the Eagles in the entire NFC playoffs last year. McVay's got them rolling, got them humming. It'll be a fun showdown, because I'm a Seattle truther. I think they're pretty dang solid, but a lot of folks will tell you they haven't beat on anybody other than tomato cans thus far. So I'm real curious to see when McDonald and McVay go toe-to-toe, kind of what happens. That'll be a fun kind of close to the end of one of the favorite divisions of mine in the NFL, is that NFC West. Should be electric. And next, they're at the Rams in this first battle. They close the regular season up in Seattle, but it should be fun, should be pretty entertaining stuff.
I think a lot of people are kind of, you know, the jury's kind of still out on Darnold.
He's looked good. I don't know who else could be out at this point. What is he giving you? Not the only thing you could say is they are absolutely pummeling the bad teams. lost to the 49ers, lost to the Bucks. Everybody else has been rather pedestrian on their schedule. They've already played the Cardinals twice. They got the Texans and humbled them, in a primetime situation. Beat up on the hapless Commanders 2 weeks ago in that ill-fated game we talked about last week. I mean, they haven't really beaten anybody that gets you excited, but Darnold has put up the numbers, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, if it's not Jonathan Taylor, looks like your offensive player of the year right now.
Yeah. You mentioned Drake May in that MVP race. He put another feather in his cap yesterday as the Patriots and a certain former Titans coach moved to 8-2 with a 28-23 win over Tampa Bay.
Yeah, they continue to impress, and they have done well in the games. They had 2 head scratching losses. Otherwise, both by 7 points. Otherwise, we're talking about them being undefeated and a instant turnaround. They've now won more games than they have in their last 2 years combined. So, I mean, that tells you kind of the success and the turnaround that they have. They got my beloved Jets this week. That won't be an easy game coming up on Thursday. Just being Thursday night football and the Jets being who the Jets are, they'll find a way to muck it up a little bit with them. But should be entertaining. And real quick, Mo, before one other game. You mentioned that score earlier, Texans-Jaguars, 36-29. Shout out to the Texans, who were absolutely left for dead in that game before they scored 26 unanswered points, 26 points in the fourth quarter alone to win that game, including the most unlikely thick 6 you'll ever see on the final play of the game. Davis Mills, yes, Davis Mills running into the end zone. They stole that game to keep their faint season alive in terms of playoff chances. And we talked last week, the Jags might have potentially controlled their own destiny in the AFC South. That went by the wayside because the Colts took care of the Falcons in not overtime, but as they call it in Europe, extra time, I guess you might say there in Berlin. But then also the Texans defeated the Jags. So if it's going to be anybody other than the Colts, the Texans might have staked a little bit of a claim yesterday with that one.
Yeah, the Falcons had a chance to do some folks in the AFC South a favor and, again, came up short. Things are
Epic
getting
game, though.
Yeah, things are getting interesting down in Atlanta. Staying in the AFC East for just a second, Miami with a big win, 30-13 over Buffalo. And I don't know if this says more about the Dolphins or if it says more about the Bills at this point. Miami improving to 3-7 with that win.
Interesting, right? Because, I mean, this is 2 different times now. 2 different times in the last 20 years, we've seen the Bills rack up 7 straight wins versus the Dolphins, and then somehow, some way, they can't get over the hump for that 8th one. And the Dolphins are going to be pesky enough every now and again to be that proverbial fly in the ointment. And we saw it yesterday. They took care of, they made the Bills look pedestrian. The Bills were their own worst enemy. You got Josh Allen, who looked like he might run on a tush push untouched into the end zone for a touchdown from midfield. And then he fumbles. Things have just gotten crazy yesterday during that stretch. And I want to say the number was 1,144 days it had been since the Dolphins had defeated the Bills. That number goes back to 0, kind of like you are at a factory, days without an incident.
In our Tankathon set, as we mentioned, the Jets with a 27-20 win over the Browns. New Orleans with a 17-7 win over the Panthers. Those 2 victories make the Titans the only 1-win team in the National Football League. Put them atop your Tankathon watch, I guess.
Yeah, it was a great day for the Titans yesterday in that sense, right? You got the Saints, who we talked about Friday. You would need them to get a win in Carolina, and lo and behold, they did. Credits to Tyler Shaw and company for getting things done, right? But then also the Jets doing a solid, getting a 2nd win. It'll be neck and neck down the stretch, kind of like it was last year. The Giants are right in that mix, and remember, the Giants had a late win that cost the Patriots a shot at the number 1 pick last year. So it's going to be fun kind of watching the Tankathon standings down the stretch. But yes, the Titans sit alone at the moment.
Monday Night Football, Philadelphia is at Green Bay. The Eagles coming in at 6-2. The Packers 5-2-1. Wade, you mentioned that as the Micah Parsons Bowl. I'll let you elaborate.
Well, just a classic. This is kind of like what you see in the NBA a lot, right? They got the poison pill. It was leaked out yesterday where essentially the clause is written into the trade that sends Micah Parsons to Green Bay where we'll do this trade with you, but you're not allowed to trade him to the Eagles for 2 more years. So if for some reason, for some ungodly reason, you would still execute that trade, you owe Dallas a little extra coin on the back end. You could argue pretty petty. but you could also argue decent business. The levels that Jerry Jones will aspire to, not to let the Eagles win in any sort of shape, form, or fashion, is impressive, if nothing else. And so I give him credit. But yeah, do not bank on seeing Micah Parsons in any capacity in an Eagles jersey for the next couple of years.
Stay petty so you don't have to get petty, right?
100%.
There we go. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little college football with Learfield Sports' Michael Felder. Stick around.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The weekend wrap-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now, his Twitter handle is @InTheBleachers. It's Michael Felder from Learfield Sports. Michael, thanks for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How you guys doing?
What's
We're doing well, man. You know, we've really gotten used here over the past few Mondays to talking about some coach who is no longer a coach. I think this is the first one in the last 6 that hasn't been a talking point here on a Monday. Who did you think it would have been coming into the weekend?
I mean, that's an easy answer, right? Mike Norvell at Florida State. And Florida State, there's a lot of folks that are upset that it didn't happen. And I think once you see that level of dissension within the ranks and kind of the rudderlessness of the program, it's one of those things where we're looking at how do you stack these jobs up? What do you do with this? What does Florida State do? Considering Florida's going to be hiring a coach, right? Considering Auburn's going to be hiring a coach, right? So like just those 2 schools, they're next to you. They're right there. That's a drive. And they obviously got a head start. We'll see what that looks like. I still don't understand what the head start looks like with respect to the playoff and the early signing period, because if a guy he wants in the playoff, he's not leaving the playoff for that. It's not a bowl. This isn't a bowl game. This is the playoff. He's going to stick with that team. Now you have early signing day. If he's sticking with that team and they keep winning, who are you signing? And I guess that means you're going to have to live in the portal, which is becoming increasingly the norm. And that's another story for another day. But the playoff has really pushed. And I wish they would take away early signing day. put it back to where it was just in February, and be able to coach out your job and then deal with whatever and try to get kids on campus for basketball games or whatnot.
And with that said, Michael, we've asked, we've talked about, at this point, if you are a school who is considering maybe making a move, do you want to get into that coaching search where you've got so many programs that are already out there and some of whom are doing their homework and their legwork and that kind of thing? I mean, do you want to be out there? And I wonder how much of an effect that was at Wisconsin with Luke Fickell.
I don't know if you want to be out there. Obviously, we're looking at we're talking Penn State, LSU, Florida, Auburn. But you still have Virginia Tech. You still got possibility at FSU. So I think that there's different levels of guys. There are guys that want that Penn State job. They want it. And I don't know who's on their board, but there's guys who want that job. There's guys who want the LSU job. There's guys that, I don't know if there's guys that want the Auburn job, but I think there's guys that will take the pay increase to take the Auburn job. And Florida's another job that people really love. It's resource rich. So it's hard if you're a school like a Wisconsin. If you're a school, I love what Indiana did, right? Because in theory, Kurt Signetti should be on everybody's board. Nah, he signed. He's good. So how this all shakes out is going to be, your guess is as good as mine, because this is uncharted territory. We've never seen anything like this with these 4 major jobs coming open, plus smaller jobs that have been, second tier, but really good second tier jobs like Virginia Tech. And so how this works, UCLA is also open. So this is going to be one of those things where we're going to have to let it go out where it leads us and then adjust on the fly for next year.
In a sport of chaos, I kind of am here for even the coaching carousel having a bit of chaos as well. It sounds like, Felder, heading into next season. And one name that has been gaining popularity and certainly is continued to skyrocket is Bob Chesney. And I'm curious, man, does James Madison, if they go on a run and get into the playoff, is it like a done deal in your mind that he takes one of these jobs, or is there maybe a thought or factor that even a group of 5 school could maybe hang on to their guy in a cycle like this?
He likes where he's at, right? So, and he's been doing it for a long time at that kind of specific level. So, again, what if they do make it into the playoffs? What if they do? Now, what?
I'm just wondering if everything that we have thought about college football up until now and the coaching and the way things are going is just completely kind of shaken up now. And what if Bob Chesney has these offers and just said, "No, I'm good at James Madison"? I mean, I'm just curious what that looks like and how that shakes up the rest of the world going forward.
I mean, all it takes is one guy to say no, and then it'll throw the world into a tizzy. And I think that's the part. JMU, that place has his back, soup to nuts. Like, they've got his back. They love him. They love having him. They love the work that he's doing. My buddy Stephen Hartzell works with me at Learfield. He went to JMU. He's like, yeah, dude, this is the most epic thing that we've had. Like, we want to keep it together. So I don't know what the money looks like. I don't know how aggressive they'll pursue. But I do think that the playoff is another important element here. So we'll see what happens. But I like Bob Chesney. I think that he's pretty innovative on both sides of the ball, actually. And his teams play hard. They're aggressive. And if they can sneak in, and hang on, let me see where they rank that right now.
Because
I didn't.
I'm just going. I've got the athletic playoff projections pulled up, and they got a 21% chance, and they're ranked 17th. I don't know if that's their model or if that's the actual CFB rankings.
So the CFP rankings, they come out tomorrow night. So we don't have the rank. So, but in week 11, let's see what we got for the CFP. JMU was not ranked for the CFP in last week's. We'll see if they are this week. But they're a team, like, they're scrappy. And you look at who's ahead of them in this position. Like, that's the thing. One of them's got to get in. And right now, I think they're going to benefit from The ACC is doing a real good job of helping them out, right? I mean, goodness gracious, what is this league even doing? So we'll see what happens. This is just, I like Chesney. I don't know what this is going to look like, and we'll find out tomorrow if they were 24 in the AP this week, JMU in the AP. We see what they will, but the one that matters is the playoff. So we'll find out tomorrow night.
Michael Felder from Learfield Sports is here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we talk a little football. Michael, anything from the weekend particularly jump out at you other than that Florida State loss, and all of a sudden we've got a spry Dabo again as a result of that one?
He got some good time with his buddy Brent Venables. They got a win. I'm not a humongous fan of Dabo Swinney in general, but sad Dabo I hate the most. So it was good to see him have a little pep in his step, look like a happy guy. He knows it's in the season they wanted to have, and that's fine. They'll figure it out. But again, you go back to just in general, my biggest takeaways, the poise and just staring down adversity in the face from Oregon and from Indiana. Indiana wins basically last play, boom. Oregon kicks a last-second field goal, boom. And Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza both, I think, punched their ticket to New York. We'll see if you guys' guy, Diego Pavia, can get that done too. What a tremendous performance to win in overtime. So there's that. And then Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson's another name that we got to talk about, because I think that we're finding ways to make Alabama go. Now, Ryan Williams, I need him to, one, be healthy, but two, let's cut some of these drops. But at the end of the day, I do think that Alabama, it looks like Alabama and A&M are on a collision course, provided obviously that A&M goes out and gets the win over Texas, which that's hard work. Texas has been, since they had that slow start, they've been kind of flying underneath the radar. And I think that's been good for Arch and the rest of that team.
Felder, you mentioned the game real quick. You mentioned the game a minute ago. I watched almost every second of Iowa and Oregon. Does that make me a sicko? Does that make me a glutton for punishment? I enjoyed every bit of that, and I thought the Kinnick magic was going to be there yet again. They didn't get the win. They did get a big number cover, though, and as a result, they were painfully close. I was just here for the weirdo discussions that would have come this week about Iowa being in the playoff hunt.
Oh, yeah. It was – they got a dose of Kinnick, and that's what I mean when I said Oregon overcame that adversity, because Iowa was on their head. And I was like, man, if this is going to be – we could be looking at a two-loss Oregon team right now and an Iowa team that's starting to bubble up. So absolutely agree. Again, hats off to Dante Moore, hats off to Asp, hats off to Dan Lanning, who's done a really good job with that team. And I say this all the time. If you can win a game and hold your opponents below 20, 24 points in college football, you're doing something right defensively, because this is a sport that's built for teams to score 30, 35 points.
Even Iowa?
Not Iowa.
Most teams.
No. Most teams, not Iowa. Absolutely
Okay.
not.
Right.
Not Iowa.
All right.
No.
Just making sure.
No.
Hey, and you also mentioned it, so I just got to give a quick shout out to Atticus Sappington, the kicker for the Ducks, Felder, who not only is a great kicker and elite kicker, but also he sounds like the doctor that you would see on Red Dead Redemption. So just sounds like a Western movie doctor, Atticus Sappington, with the stones on that kick there in the rain to get the win.
Yeah, in the rain, in the Midwest, in Kinnick. People going crazy. I don't think anybody left that stadium until he hit that kick.
You know, does 27-24 say more about Penn State or Indiana, Michael? Because, I mean, folks had left that program pretty much for dead. Obviously, they fired their coach.
Penn State was resilient. Like, wrote about it today in the newsletter, but Penn State was resilient. I also was ready to just be like, okay, Indiana doesn't have it. They don't have it. But the way that they came back, again, we talked about adversity. They stuck through, got that big drive towards the end of the game, were able to get that score to Omar Cooper Jr. What a catch. What an amazing catch to get that toe tap in. from Fernando Mendoza. So I think it says on the road in Happy Valley, right at State College, in Beaver Stadium, against a team that really had their back against the wall, and they still stuffed them back into the double back. What I wonder about is what Penn State looks like for these last few weeks of the season. Is this demoralizing, or do they feel like they can get it done?
That catch that you referenced by Omar Cooper Jr., I mean, that's a catch on Sundays, man. He got both feet down.
Yes. Yep.
Just
yes, he did.
Where does that rank for you? Just off the top of your head.
I think it's the best catch we've seen this season. For sure. I mean, obviously, like if we're going all-time catches just in football, Odell Beckham's still right now, probably still the GOAT catch for me. One hand in the end zone, both feet down. Come on. That's amazing. But there's been these guys are so talented now, and they get so many more reps at sideline reps. They get so many more, their quarterbacks get more reps now than ever. Wide receivers get more reps catching the football now than ever. I think CeeDee Lamb had a catch on the sidelines where the ball was like almost a yard out of bounds, but he also was able to get both feet in. It was amazing. So there's just been a ton of really good catches, and these guys practice. Like the crazy part, like I'm 40. When I was growing up, guys did not practice one-hand catches. That wasn't a thing. So I remember watching SportsCenter with my dad when I'm 8, 9, 10. And if there was ever a one-hand catch, it's SportsCenter top 10. Now, what do you get? 3, 4 of them in a game? And running backs can even make one-hand catches now. They used to not be able to catch the ball at all. So I think we're seeing an evolution in the sport as the game opens up. We're seeing teams practice these things, like guys on the jugs machine catching one ball with one hand, one ball with the other hand, throwing them back, working on one-hand catches like that, working on them in practice. It's really interesting.
Michael Felder from Learfield joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Michael, Texas Tech, what do we make of them at this moment? I mean, they just pretty well dismantled BYU this weekend.
Yeah, they took them apart. I think that they're good, for one thing. We got to acknowledge the fact that they're good. What is it, Morton? And they've got Dickey running the ball. These guys are good. This is a good football team. And Joey McGuire's doing a really good job there. And people weren't sure if they made a stretch when they hired him, but he's doing a good job. He's built a good team. Obviously, he's used the portal. But they are absolutely, like, you look at the numbers. 67-7. Okay, that's Pine Bluff. Okay. 62-14. That's Kent. Okay. Oregon State, 45-14. That's an actual football team that they don't have a great pulse, but they've got one. Utah, 34-18. That's it. That's a win. Oh, 34-10. That's even worse. My eyes ain't no good right now. 35-11, 43-17. Like the closest game they have is Arizona State, 26-22.
When Morton didn't play.
But everything else. And everything else is they're blowing people out. They're not just winning, they're winning convincingly. I want to see them play somebody, with the pulse, but they've only got 2 games left. UCF and West Virginia. So I expect them to be in the Big 12. They will be in the Big 12 championship game. And then if they win, that means they're probably going to be a playoff team.
I think the question with them is, will they have the goods maybe to even think about being a top 4 seed, depending on how the rest of the landscape shakes out is what I'm, kind of curious by.
Yeah, that's another good point. It's going to be, I don't see why they can't. Right now, what are we looking at? Ohio State and Indiana, they're going to square off. And then Texas Tech, who are they going to play? Are they going to play BYU again?
Like you would think, unless Cincinnati, sneaks around and maybe BYU catches another loss, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's going to be interesting. Like this is going to be. We'll find out a lot tomorrow night when the rankings get revealed, and teams will find out what they have to do these last 3 weeks of the season.
You mentioned Vanderbilt in passing a little bit ago, 45-38 in overtime over an Auburn team that was playing under an interim head coach, as our so many teams. But
Yep.
it's tough for Vanderbilt. They were 16th in the rankings in the playoff rankings last week,
Right.
but they don't have a schedule that really lends itself to a lot of upward mobility. They really got to have a lot of help.
Well, they need help, but it's also they have a schedule. Well, I don't know what Kentucky's going to do. I mean, they whooped Florida last week. But for them, the goal is just to hang around. Let's let those other guys eat themselves, and let's let A&M beat Texas. Right? That's a spot for Vanderbilt to climb. Let's watch what happens between A&M, Bama, and Georgia, and see what happens there. I mean, I think that's probably the three teams that get in, and then there's some combination of Texas and Vanderbilt that make that fourth team for the SEC.
And
Ole Miss.
Yeah, and Vanderbilt doesn't want that comparison with Texas, I don't think. I mean, they don't want to be going head up against Texas, given what took place in Austin a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where Vanderbilt, Indiana, Texas Tech, three teams that are not just playing against their respective leagues. They're playing against perception. They're playing against brand name. They have to win, but they also have to win people over to believing that they're a team. I think Indiana took a huge step in that regard by beating Penn State on the road. That's not an easy thing to do. And I think Vanderbilt, every time you think that everybody's going to look at the Alabama game and talk about pedigree. And then every time they take a step to go get a win, LSU, what happens? LSU is now just nobody really believes in them anyways. Get a win against Mizzou, all of a sudden, as the season moves forward, people are like, Mizzou wasn't really that good. So they're fighting against perception. They have to fight this real fight to win games, but they're also fighting against perception.
Who's a team that you are intrigued by that we've not talked about?
Notre Dame. Notre Dame. I think that between CJ Carr, Jeremiah Love's going to go over 1,000 yards this weekend, and they've kind of been off the radar, right? Mm-hmm. After the first two losses. So you lose to Miami, a Miami team now that people are not as high on. Then you lose to A&M team that people their value is really starting to skyrocket. But you've quietly done the work you're supposed to do. Like they're just sitting there, they're in the back of the class, and they just keep scoring and keep it up. They're going to be, as long as you have a chance to get Notre Dame into the playoffs, as long as Notre Dame doesn't drop the ball against a Pitt team, which by the way is pretty good, quietly. And drop the ball against Pitt, drop the ball against a super energetic Syracuse team that just can't quite get over the hump. Or Stanford, who UNC just beat Stanford. And it's one of those games where you're like, man, if Stanford could put it together, they might be able to do something. But the reality is they should win all three of these games. And they're going to, if they win three and you're going to the playoffs.
Does Love get an invite?
Oof. It's stacked against him. I hate it. I mean, I don't know. I know Wade's heard me talk about it, but I don't know if you have. I hate this award. I do think it sucks. And this had to be 5-6 years ago. I was working for Bleacher Report still. I got called in to the Turner Building in New York City. I was in New York for something else, but I got called in. And they were like, can you just give us like a quick 2-3 take on the Heisman? And they were wanting me to they were going to run it as part of a package that CNN was going to air. And I just went in there and they were like, just free flow in the booth. Just let folks know what this award means. I was like, all right. And so I go in there and I was like, it's a quarterback award. These aren't their quarterbacks aren't always the best players, but they're going to give it to a quarterback because it's the only player that people know what they're doing. It's only one player that has stats that are super quantifiable. And basically I just went on for, a good 3 minutes about how much it sucked. And realistically, this is ridiculous that some of these guys don't get to go when they are the best player. And they did cut me out of the video
Yeah.
and ask one of my colleagues, Barrett Salee, to do the thing that they wanted, which was talk about how good the award is.
I was wondering if that would get end up on the chopping block, and it sounds like we got our answer there. Felder, you mentioned that game. I mean, game day is going to be at Pitt. Pitt seemingly loses games always. They're not supposed to, and they somehow sneak up and win games they're not necessarily supposed to. They're an 11.5-point underdog. Is there any sign of a viable upset opportunity here in your mind?
Yeah.
You think they're live?
Pitt, yeah, absolutely. Games at Pitt. They are, I think they finally hit their stride with the Henschel kid. And this team is, I don't know, they seem to find ways to win when they probably shouldn't. I mean, I know they lost to Louisville and they lost to West Virginia. That's a rivalry game. Louisville game now doesn't, it looks bad now because Louisville just lost. But this is a team that they go out and they get wins and they wins and win. So if Pitt wins this weekend, I don't know if you guys have looked at the ACC standings.
I got them right here.
But you got them right here? Okay. So what we're talking about look at all these one-loss teams in the league.
My favorite stat still, by the way, is Virginia lost to North Carolina State earlier in the year, but it was not a conference game. They had weird arrangement going on. That was going to be one of the most epic chaos situations ever where you lose to a conference team, but it didn't count in the standings.
Did not count. Absolutely. It did not count in the standings. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one-loss teams in the league.
And none of them are the usual suspects.
No Miami, no Clemson. Nope. Not there.
Obviously no Florida State.
No Florida State. I completely forget that they exist at this point. Georgia Tech, UVA, Pitt, SMU,
and Duke.
SMU could conceivably get to the ACC championship game. Every one of these teams could conceivably get to the ACC championship game. I believe, with the exception of Georgia Tech, all of them have league games left. And so it's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough sledding to get there. And SMU, I don't know what to expect from them on a week-to-week basis.
No, and
you lost to Wake Forest.
Yeah, and with how we began this conversation with the head coaching talk. You're wondering, they struck me as a prime candidate with Lashley. Before the extension, where are they at mentally? And then they go out and beat Miami, and then turn around and it's a bit of a poo-poo effort last weekend. So I'm really kind of, I say poo-poo. They pulled away late versus Boston College. Wasn't necessarily dominant like you thought initially.
Yeah, they pulled away late. Good for them. That's good for their resume. All people are going to do is look at the number 45-13 and like, oh, they blew them out. Okay. So I think that the Wake loss is interesting. I am fully intrigued by this Wake loss because they are, I don't know what I'm trying to put together. I got to shoot. I work for Tar Heel 24/7 as well. And I got to put together something to talk about Wake Forest. I don't know how they win. I have no clue how it happens. But for some reason, they keep finding ways to win. And it's remarkable. They had a long punt return for a touchdown to help give them a little breathing ground to start last week. And they just keep finding ways. And I'm looking at UNC and I'm looking at Wake and I'm like, I don't know which team to pick. I have no idea who to pick in this football game.
Hey,
so, yes, sir.
Is Brent Key gonna be hot, or is he just maximizing his situation at Georgia Tech? Can he do what he's doing in Atlanta anywhere else? Do you feel like, or is this just
I think he could thing? I think he can do it anywhere else. I don't know that he wants to leave. I think he could do it. I think he could do it at Auburn. I think he could do it at Penn State. I think he could do it at Florida. I think he could maybe even go a little bit higher. I will say this, not having Haynes King, who has been incredibly dynamic this year, that's a setback. But I think he's got the ability to coach anywhere. I don't think he's a one-trick pony. I mean, the craziest thing, and I love Haynes King.
Mm-hmm.
Do you listen to this stat? Because they lost to NC State. Haynes King had over 400 yards passing and 100 yards on the ground. And they lost. They lost. I can't. I saw it and I was like, I cannot believe this. That never happens.
Defies the laws of physics in some regards, right?
Oh, yeah. So they got to pay attention to turnovers, but I think he's really good. Certainly in the Battle of the Brents in the ACC, he beat out Brent Pry, who is a guy assumed probably go back to being a defensive coordinator. So we'll see what happens with Key. Look, the goal for them is to get to the ACC championship game and then get to the playoff. But right now, all those teams that we just mentioned, the goal for them is to get to Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can get to Charlotte, anything can happen.
Hey, speaking of getting somewhere, though, I do got to do a quick pulse check, Felder. You lost by 3 to Cal. You lost by 1 to Virginia, but UNC bowl eligible, win 2 out of your last 3, and one of those would be over Duke, who's suddenly surging. Give us an update on Chapel Hill right now.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think they're going to beat Duke, so they got to beat Wake and they got to beat NC State. Folks are calming down because game 1, folks were excited. Game 2, expected win. Game 3, expected win. Getting smoked by UCF. No one saw that coming. Clemson. I mean, we know Clemson's not that good. 38-10. Uh-oh. And then you start to add in the heartbreak, right? You end the Cal game with what should have been a touchdown, like a ball security, gets punched out, goes out for a touchback, you lose. Virginia, you start the Virginia game with the drive, and what do? Fumble it out of the end zone on back-to-back scoring play that should have been scoring plays, and then you lose that game in overtime. Then you get a win against Syracuse. Then you get a win against Stanford. They're starting to, and I did write this down. The one thing I am confident in this team is that they're going to play defense. Like they're number 1 in limiting plays over 20 yards, 30 yards, and 40 yards in the ACC. They're number 1 at that. So they don't give up explosive plays. They try to make you earn it. I don't think they're that good, but they are trying to get better. Gio Lopez is finally throwing, I think it's for 3 games in a row, he's throwing for over 200 yards, which, again, we talked about the rules in college football and how it's easier for wide receivers, easier for quarterbacks. 200 yards, that's half a Haynes King output. Like, come on. So this is going to be a really interesting final stretch. You got to take 2 of these. And with Wake Forest, I really have no idea. And then you throw in the rivalry game.
There we go. Michael Felder from Learfield Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Michael, as always, we appreciate you taking some time with us and look forward to catching up with you here real soon.
Yep, you take it easy.
Appreciate you. Let's skip the final break of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports today, and let's get into a little hockey, very little, as the Preds continue to struggle. Dropped a 5-4 decision to Dallas on Saturday night, their 4th straight loss. They play again tonight up in the Big Apple against the Rangers before crossing the Atlantic for the Global Series. They will play the Penguins on Friday and Saturday in Stockholm, Sweden. And I'm not sure that this is a team that the NHL necessarily wants to showcase, but here we are.
Here we are. And, I mentioned we can't do one without the other. We fired up Tankathon already for the NFL. We got to fire up Money Puck for the NHL, and Preds sitting at about a 10% chance to make the playoffs at the moment. So hopefully they enjoy their trip. I know the natives will be excited to see some of their own in person. I know some of those guys will be pumped to play in front of their home crowd, and the staff will enjoy a little bit of a trip overseas. But not much else to be excited about this group right now.
Really not. I'm trying to pull up their record, but I know it's not great. Again, they've dropped their last 4 now and have not looked good in the process. So we'll see what we get in this last game stateside tonight before they go over and go from there. Speaking of teams that have not looked good, you mentioned it. OKC 114, Memphis 100 last night, and it is the defending NBA champions. I get all that, but Memphis has dropped 5 of its last 6 now.
Yeah, lost 5 of 6. The John Morant trade rumors will continue to heat up. Miami might come calling. We'll see what happens there. But the fact is, you were blowing the Thunder out in the first half, and then you give that one away in the second half, just getting obliterated down the stretch. They're not playing good basketball, and they need to. They're similar to the Titans. They're similar to the Preds. They need a lot to go right in the Western Conference in particular. If they were in the East, they'd be the 6th seed probably right now. But as it sits, they're in the West, and they're completely toiling at the bottom of the standings. So it's not going to be good enough. The good news is, especially if you pull off a trade with Morant, you're going to have even more assets. The Desmond Bane trade already looks like the trade of the century with how bad he has struggled in his first couple of games there in Orlando. So time will tell, but that's an unfortunate thing, and it's not really the sexiest thing to try and sell to your fan base right now because the results on the court, albeit against the champs, have not been great.
Yeah, you mentioned Ja finished with 11 yesterday, 3 of 18 from the floor. But the rookie Cedric Coward, 13 points, 10 boards. He's showing up.
Yep, got my Rookie of the Year wagers fired in over the weekend, before the price perhaps drops a little bit more. Got Cooper Flagg kind of sagging a little bit. Got Coward shooting up a little bit. That might be something to watch, especially once you get Edey back. And then, man, second or third year in a row that we've seen Brandon Clark. This is a guy that does not do a lot, but does everything at the same time. On any other roster, he would not have the role or need that he has on Memphis, but being that backup big that can do so many things, his absence is really, really killing them. That's in addition to Edey being out there. Incomplete at the moment, but the bad news is by the time they are complete, they'll probably be well out of the playoff chase.
We talked about the opening round of the high school football playoffs took place. They stretched out over 3 days this past weekend, and, there was a lot – well, there were a lot of 1s beating a lot of 4s and beating them pretty convincingly. But there were, I think, 5 4 seeds that won. So, I don't know if that's enough to warrant doing something differently, but a lot of folks want these 4 seeds gone some kind of way. There's always an issue with the TSSAA high school football state playoff bracket. This year, they tweaked some things to get rid of early rematches between teams from the same region. But as a result, you've got some ungodly travel coming up this weekend. I think the mileage basically doubled from what those brackets had looked like to what they're going to look like with the travel this weekend. I know Independence is heading to Whitehaven. I know that Lawrence County could have been going to Bristol this weekend. Instead, they're just going to Knoxville. I mean, you've got some folks logging some mileage this coming weekend that you've not really seen this early in the playoffs. But you don't have any rematches.
Don't have any rematches, and this will be interesting, right? Because this is a 1-year deal. I'll be curious to see if they do this again next year. But you're right. Shout out to our friends at TriCitySports.com. 9,388 more miles are being traveled in the second round than they were last year. You had a round trip mileage last year of 6,602. You got a round trip mileage total this year, 15,990. So almost 10,000 more miles will be traveled in the second round. And probably sparser crowds. Don't look for many upsets this week.
Sparser crowds for sure, and I'm not sure how much more sparse they can get because I saw some this past weekend that necessarily encouraging. But anyway, that's going to do it for the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and join me and Calvin White. Right, Wade? Is that right? Me and Calvin tomorrow?
You got it.
That's it.
Have fun.
Tomorrow, we'll see y'all at 2:00.